Today on CrimeFilesKE, we explore the shocking story of one of Kenya's earliest political assassinations, the brutal murder of Pio Gama Pinto. His death in 1965 sent shockwaves across the young nation, silencing a radical voice for justice, equality, and freedom. But who exactly was Pinto, and why did his life end so tragically? Let's go back to the beginning. Pio Gama Pinto was born on March 31, 1927, in Nairobi, Kenya. He came from a Goan family of Indian descent, deeply rooted in Catholic traditions but also politically conscious. His early education was in Nairobi and then in India, where he studied at St. Joseph's School in Bangalore and later at St. Mary's High School in Bombay. It was during his time in India that Pinto was first exposed to the ideas of nationalism, socialism, and anti-colonial struggles, which would shape his worldview for the rest of his life. In the late 1940s, Pinto returned to Kenya. He worked as a journalist and quickly immersed himself in politics, becoming a strong critic of British colonialism. Unlike many elites of his time who sought gradual reforms, Pinto believed in radical change. He supported the Momo movement, which was fighting a bloody guerrilla war against British settlers and their administration. Even though Pinto was not a fighter in the forests, his pen and his organizing skills were weapons of resistance. He was repeatedly harassed and detained by the colonial government for his political activism. In 1954, during the height of the Momo emergency, Pinto was arrested and later detained in Manda Island prison. He would spend nearly 4 years in detention camps, but imprisonment did not break his spirit. Instead, it solidified his role as a revolutionary thinker. After his release, he remained active, joining hands with other leaders who were preparing Kenya for independence. By the early 1960s, as independence approached, Pinto became an influential strategist within the Kenya African National Union KANU. He worked closely with figures such as Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, advocating for socialist policies and the redistribution of resources. Pinto believed that true independence meant economic freedom for the poor, not just the transfer of power from white settlers to a black elite. He played a major role in establishing the Kenya News Agency, using journalism as a tool to shape public opinion and highlight the struggles of ordinary Kenyans. Pinto was also instrumental in connecting Kenya's liberation movement with global networks, particularly socialist and anti-colonial movements across Africa and beyond. His home in Nairobi became a meeting place for freedom fighters, activists, and exiled revolutionaries from across the continent. But these radical ideas also earned him enemies. Within the newly independent government, divisions were emerging between moderates aligned with President Jomo Kenyatta and radicals who sided with Vice President Oginga Odinga. Pinto was firmly in Odinga's camp, pushing for land redistribution, state-led development, and closer ties with socialist countries. The tension between the two camps grew fierce, and Pinto's outspokenness made him a marked man. Then came that tragic morning. On February 24, 1965, Pinto left his home in Nairobi's Westlands area to drive his daughter to school. As he returned and parked his car at his gate, he was ambushed. A young man approached and shot him at point-blank range. Pinto collapsed instantly, dying on the spot. He was only 38 years old. Kenya had lost one of its brightest political thinkers barely 2 years after independence. The assassination stunned the nation. Within hours, the police arrested a man named Kisilu Mutua, who would later be convicted of Pinto's murder. Kisilu, a former police constable, was sentenced to death, but his sentence was later commuted to life imprisonment. He would spend over 35 years in jail, maintaining that he was only a pawn in a larger conspiracy, and that's where the mystery deepens. Many historians and political observers believe Pinto's murder was not the work of a lone gunman, but a politically motivated assassination designed to silence the socialist wing of government. His alignment with Odinga, his vocal criticism of the emerging political elite, and his ability to mobilize grassroots support threatened powerful interests. To this day, questions remain: who ordered the killing? Was it orchestrated by rivals within KANU? Or was it part of a broader Cold War struggle between Western-backed moderates and socialist-leaning radicals in Africa? What is clear is that Pinto's death marked a turning point. His assassination was the first of several high-profile political killings in Kenya, including the later deaths of Tom Mboya in 1969 and J.M. Kariuki in 1975. Each case carried the same hallmarks: a rising leader silenced, a nation left in shock, and lingering questions about justice and truth. Pio Gama Pinto was buried at Nairobi's City Park Cemetery, his grave becoming a symbol of sacrifice. Though gone, his legacy lives on. Pinto's life reminds us that independence was not just about raising a new flag, but about the struggle for economic and social justice. His murder showed how dangerous it could be to stand up for radical change in a young nation still finding its way. Nearly 60 years later, Pinto is remembered not just as a victim, but as a martyr for freedom. His voice was silenced, but his ideas continued to inspire new generations of activists and thinkers in Kenya and beyond. This has been CrimeFilesKE, bringing you the untold story of the murder of Pio Gama Pinto, a story of hope, betrayal, and a nation's first encounter with political assassination. Stay tuned for more deep dives into Kenya's most shocking crimes and mysteries. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and share because more gripping stories are coming your way.